guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are
Hey everyone, I'm Dave, and I'm not Meggie. That's funny. I'm not Meggie. Some people get confused in the chat room, but I'm definitely not Meggie. I am Dave. Meggie was with us. It looks like his internet has dropped out. Good old Australian internet. Yeah, it's there until you need it, and then it's not there. Sometimes that's just what happens. Oh, and I know I'm going to cough 100 times as well, so pardon me. Meki and I do two shows, Shiny Side Out, and this is Platos Cave, where if you can see this on video, then you can see that it is the Platos Cave allegory, where the people chained to the floor were forced to watch the shadows created by actual people outside of the cave. However, they killed the messenger. Someone escaped to discover that it was just people making the shadows, and they didn't want to know the truth. So, hey Fleddy. Hey, I'm finally awake early enough to hear Dave and Meki. Good morning to you wherever you are. If it's morning, if it's evening, good evening. If it's nighttime, sorry. It's certainly nighttime here. I was asleep on the lounge, and then I heard a very strange sound coming through the television, and it was a coincidence. It was just like some kind of knocking sound that it woke me up. Lucky, because I had just enough time to put together the title screen and things that I need to do, set up the streaming passwords and all that for Rumble anyway, get all that happening. So if you're listening to this on Revolution Radio, I am very pleased. I am very, very pleased that it's working. And I live in a cave, says Fleddy. That's fantastic. That's awesome. I always wanted kind of to be one of those persons that people sought for information, being a recluse living in a cave, maybe with a long beard and unclipped toenails. That's a joke. It's a Red Dwarf joke. That's what happens in stasis. You continue to grow your hair, and all the keratin still grows your hair and nails. Anyway, I'm broadcasting out of Australia, if you can't already tell, because of my accent. And revolution.radio is the website that we broadcast through. It's an actual station. It is the home to fresh ideas. It's also a great place to buy merchandise to help support the station. And if you want any of the merchandise, maybe you can just purely donate or tell someone else about the show, the station, the host, whatever it is, and say, you know what, I learned this from here. I couldn't tell you what show number this is because we abandoned that a number of shows, hundreds of shows ago. We've lost count. But I am keeping track of Shiny Side Out, the other brand we have. So pour yourself a coffee, sit down, I suppose, strap yourselves in like it's an aeroplane or a motor vehicle. Always wear your seatbelt, even when the light says you don't need to. On an aircraft, still wear it, because you never know what turbulence is going to propel everybody into the air. From your perspective, of course, with your seatbelt on. Tune into us online on your smart device directly via an app, or listen at home on a great tabletop digital radio. Now, any mistake I make, I'm going to fix in post. It's always a joke because this is pure live, and you're getting exactly what I think at the time that I think it. I don't think there is a filter. There's a there's a pre-composition filter which is beyond my control, and that's 14 years of radio that allows that filter to exist. I know that if someone was to have a conversation with me outside of the radio station, I might use a lot of curse words or emphasis words if you live in Australia. They emphasize the point that you're making. It's fantastic. I like it. Otherwise, I have to sound like Donald Trump. It's fantastic. It's great. It's going to be a great wall. I don't do a good impression, but his use of those words tends to be my fallback position when I don't have the ability to swear. So, you can access the archives from the station for free. So there used to be a cost when Nighthawk was with us. Was when he was before he passed. There was a fee to be able to access it, and he kept a list of usernames and passwords for the people who were going to access it. And he banned that, and now it's long gone. And the password's available there on the page entering the chat room, entering the archives. But the archives are a great place. Everything's stored in MP3 format. You can just download a whole bunch of shows from your favorite host, and away you go. You're up and running. And there is a John Wayne movie on Tubi channel I left on the TV all night. Oh, that's... Well, I'm the person who tends to fall asleep in front of the TV. It's quite comforting, and I won't be able to tell you at what point in anything that I was watching that I fell asleep. Sadly, I just, I think I stop recording long before I go to sleep. It's a lot of fun. The chat room's alive. I'm in there. Comments there. Flatty's there. Scrolling up a little. Jim Jones. Oh. Flippy killed Rev Radio is another person who is active. You can chat to us while we're on air. That's the beauty of this platform. But I'm going to cease the intro right here. I'm sure Meki will be back any minute. The 45 minutes it takes for his machine to reboot. That's on him. He could buy himself a dedicated PC just for running this, or he could do it on his phone. Meki could do that. US Yanks still love John Wayne movies, Dave. I know. I'm okay. I used to watch spaghetti westerns and westerns. All in black and white on a black and white TV, so I didn't know any different. And I loved it. Even the early days of the very poor colour film versions of the spaghetti westerns, I would watch them in black and white. I loved it. Fell asleep to Jeremiah Johnson last. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I'm broadcasting out of Dyke and Jump Country. There's been some hoo-ha recently in our parliament about how Australia has adopted this welcome to country. No one's really being welcomed to country. They're just recognising the traditional custodians of the land, and a person of Aboriginal heritage themselves, now a parliamentarian, said it's all getting a bit thin and it's lost its luster. It's really not saying anything about anything, and it's kind of stealing the ownership of Australia away from the Aboriginals or the custodians of the land, First Nations people. And they're quite disappointed in the continued use of that. Or that person is for the rest of them. And guess what? We've got Meki on board. Meki, I've just finished the intro.
Oh, good man. My Discord decided not to start. So I stopped it and I started it and decided to download 8 updates.
Well, that's the reason for it.
That'll do it.
It'll be way more stable now. I did see you in the call. I saw you in the call, and then your video
You
froze.
saw me, right?
Yeah,
It just froze.
and that was the end of that. Yeah, yeah.
It's my bear impression.
Oh, that's what that was.
That's what that was. Hey, I think YouTube hates us. I really do. I think there's this hate that YouTube has because we're putting our shorts on there and they didn't get any playtime, which I find odd.
So we were getting, at our height, we were getting about 55,000 views, and now we're getting 9, 6, something.
59.
59,
59, not 1,000, 59. Dave, if you can do me a favor, and this show here, just upload it to YouTube, and I'll import it into Opus, and we'll see, because I want to make really short clips, shorts.
Okay. So
we're giving the game away.
Well, guess what? Guess what I'm going to do? But conspiracy. How short did you want them to be?
Rosebud.
Oh, platinum rosebud. That would be a great one to do.
Wouldn't it?
Hang on.
I tell you what, though.
Wait, silence. Platinum rosebud.
I love it.
You can use that.
Let's see what happens with that. I did put a warning out for the shooter in New York City. I learned about it 10 minutes into it.
Yeah.
And that got us a few views. But there was a public service warning, so hopefully everybody's okay. Having said that, today and for the last week now, obviously, it just can't get any crazier in the world.
What do you think?
Donald Trump now said that you can't fake the kind of starvation the Gazans are experiencing. You can't fake it. That's real starvation, he said. And the Israelis saying, "Oh, it's a lie." Look, I'm sorry. We have moved well beyond any sympathy we might have had for Israel after the October attacks. In excess of 50,000 people have been killed. We now have a malnutrition population that will have long-term effects into the next decades because of the lack of supplies, all in aid of destroying Hamas, it seems. And this is almost, is it 3 years now? 2 years? I forget. But after all of this and most of Gaza being a rubble field, how much more can you do? You're controlling 90% of Gaza and you still haven't rooted out Hamas. It's not about rooting out Hamas. It's getting rid of the Palestinians is what it is. Okay? It's very simple. It's ethnic cleansing, right? And at 50,000 dead, including using starvation as a means of warfare against the civilian population, that's genocide. And no, I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm not an anti-dentite either. Okay, haha. But you call a spade. I'm sorry, right? Genocide is not a term that is exclusively owned by the Jewish people. Genocides happened many times since then. In Rwanda, in Serbia, Bosnia. It happened in Armenia. Yeah, Turkey was the perpetrator there.
You know what,
the Armenian
there's countries in the world who have a history of destroying their own people. But that's okay.
Of course.
I stole the mic for a sec because I've got a news story on the screen, and this is from our leftist media here, and I'm very surprised. You'll see why. I'm very surprised to see the accusation here, and this is a story that says Israel accuses Albanese of telling a lie as a report warns famine is playing out in Gaza. Yeah. See, so you can see the distancing that Australia is now doing with Israel, despite the more recent comment of from Albanese against them, saying, you should really just suck it up and stop the fighting. And the people being shot, openly shot. The video is now released everywhere, and you can see people being shot at, trying to get their food. So, look, this is a fair call, Mackie, and I'm passing it to you, but this is something extraordinary, and I've said this before, I'll say it again the last time I'll say it, at least for today, and that is the most persecuted people on the planet are now the abusers. And I really feel as though that they shouldn't. How do you stop this? I'll ask that question.
Okay, you can't. Now, realistically, of course, you can. If America withdrew all of its support for Israel, then it would stop tomorrow. Okay, it's that simple. This will not happen. Okay, it won't happen for various reasons, a variety of reasons. But it is something that will not stop. It will stop when one or the other side no longer exists, and this is a very specific conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Obviously, Palestine was there for a long, long time. And then, the state of Israel came into being in 1948, and ever since then has asserted its right to exist, and it has a right to exist. Of course, it does. But so does the home state, home country for the Palestinians, right? I mean, the two are not mutually exclusive, right? And the funny thing is this. This is the funny thing. This is a tiny piece of land. It really is. It's like you can drive through it in a day. Okay, Israel is not huge either. So Gaza is tiny. Israel itself is not a very big country. These are tiny countries, and it's astounding just how much bloodshed and how much heartache and despair can be generated in such a little piece of real estate. You can't stop, Dave. And the Israelis will not stop. Benjamin Netanyahu will not stop. The far right in Israel will not stop until all Palestinians are expelled from Gaza and eventually from the West Bank.
It reminds me of a bloodlust, Meki. That's what. Well, it's
it's deeper than that. This is existential. There are these blood feuds in Europe and Serbia and other places, that go, back centuries. This kind of conflict is going back millennia. The Jewish people were displaced some 2,000 years ago, right? And have been without a homeland of their own for almost 2,000 years until 1948. So this is a very deep-rooted existential conflict where one side now is so ingrained in itself that the other side also has no choice but to fortify itself. And they're now fighting for the right to exist. Israel has no interest in the two-state solution at all. Okay, I don't know if it's bloodlust per se. I do find it odd, though, that the Israelis are shooting at civilians at the aid centers. I also found it odd that they were shooting at the ambulances, ambulance drivers, even though they were clearly marked as ambulances. They had the lights on, they had the sirens on, and they were still shot at, and all but one were killed. Which is, again, this is all very strange, but it is part of a terror policy, right? This is terror, state terror, to get the Palestinians out of Gaza. We don't want any Palestinians in Gaza. It is that simple, right? And they're getting there. The Israelis are getting it because nobody is stopping it. Yeah, people are calling it genocide, they're calling it ethnic cleansing, but nobody's actually doing anything. The Europeans are jumping up and down, good for them. Donald Trump is getting uncomfortable, but he's not going to do anything. And, the only people that are really concerned, I guess would have been Iran to some extent. That's sort of out the window somewhat. Syria, that's sort of out the window. Interestingly enough, the Saudis are very mum. But it's a powder keg. The entire region is a powder keg.
Meki,
nobody really cares.
This kind of turning your back on the country that you've been allies with, and it shows that slow movement of the the government wheel. The wheels are in motion, from, say, yes, Prime Minister. They're so slow to react and so slow to behave that if we're seeing a 180-degree turn from our Prime Minister and our Foreign Office putting out releases, then maybe this is trending in the right direction now?
It's not, and I'll tell you why it's not trending. Because there is a method to the madness. The reason governments are acting like glaciers is so they don't have to act.
Mm-hmm.
Only when it becomes again, if a question becomes so dramatic that politicians are likely to lose their position, or it's an existential question for the country itself, at that point you can expect swift action. At any other time, governments will move like glaciers. Look, the best example I can think of, and I don't care, I'm not going to argue whether or not it's real or not, I'm just going to say it. There are people that believe climate change is happening. I agree. The climate is changing. It's nothing new. It has changed before. It'll change again. I mean, we have ample evidence throughout history that the climate changes. You can argue whether or not this is our doing or not. It doesn't really matter. It's there, but nothing is being done. So we're well past the point of no return. Okay, and rather than trying to stop the temperature rise, as it were, right? Rather than trying to stop any changes in the climate, we now have to start thinking about, well, how do we survive it? How do we live it? How do we deal with it, right? Which is what very few nations are doing, if any. So it is really interesting to see. This is a perfect example because this has been going on for decades, Dave, as you know, right? The Kyoto Climate Treaty and all that nonsense. I think it's hilarious. It's like it's no unless you can tie it to some kind of profit, nobody's going to do anything about anything, right? It just won't happen. And Gaza is the same.
Mm-hmm. So
nobody cares.
Make it exactly the right answer, but making the point about the climate. When I grew up, it was the poisoning of our planet, the pollution, the river that caught fire, raining sulfuric acid or acid rain. It was making it because sulfur dioxide going into the atmosphere and mixing with water. The things that we
had acid rain.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did. And when the pollutants were so bad, and lead being one of the greatest perpetrators, we had action because it affected everybody. When it doesn't affect everybody, it's only affecting a small group of people, like, say, let's call it, if you live in Burke in New South Wales, you can't drink the water that's there. You have to have water brought in because of the lead content from the mining industry. And it exceeds all countries' levels of lead poisoning. We went through this period through the 70s of recognizing that polluting the planet was a bad thing. And it's taken at least 60 years for us not to clean it up, but to bring it to a slow halt. I can't imagine also with climate change that we're going, if you can blame anything you like, the pollution was human. That was definitely our cause. When it comes to climate, look, anything that we do in Australia, and it's almost meaningless, whatever we are able to achieve, at whatever cost, and it's all cost to the consumer, to be honest with you. Other countries, because we outsource all of our material production, then all we're doing is outsourcing it and then blaming another country for it. That's what we do. But we claim, oh, we're really super clean. But we're really not, because we've just outsourced all of that climate problematic material. So either carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide or, there's a couple of other ozone depleting ones. So those, if you outsource it to someone else, it's still on you. It should still be on you. It shouldn't be on the other country, because then they're easy to blame because it's just them doing it. But we're seeking them to produce it on our behalf, and that's really bad. So in this case, Becky, taking it back to Israel and how governments are glacial, I can't see, I would hope to see, but I'm not seeing any action swift enough to prevent the whole of it being concreted over.
It's not. That's the ultimate outcome. the ultimate outcome is it's going to be a rubble field, which will be deemed uninhabitable, which is fair enough, like a condemned building. Then we'll come in, we'll tear down the condemned building, we'll have to rebuild it. It has to be made safe. So the Israelis are going to go and they might bulldoze it all, make sure there are no more tunnels, and then create a whole new infrastructure, because the infrastructure that is there no longer exists.
That's
so
right.
You have to start from it. This is like Germany in 1945, right? It's like Nagasaki, like Hiroshima. It's completely erased. Go ahead and build it up yourself. But what really worries me is this, Dave, and I spoke about this on Sunday, I think. We have all these distractions, and make no mistake, Epstein is a distraction. Gaza is a distraction. Even the Ukraine war is a distraction, and there are many other distractions that are happening right now, right?
In the sand.
This is one
partner
where
BCGX
stuff about
more heinous than others.
When we thought Trump was going to come in, and a lot of things are going to be resolved. We're going to drain the swamp. We're going to figure everything out. And when you have this one hardcore line in the sand that everybody...
Apparently in excess of 1,000 young girls or young women that were exploited here, right? That's a lot, by the way, okay, in case you're wondering. And nobody talks about the victims. Nobody talks about their... I guess their well-being, or what they get out of it. They're all concerned with the parasites, the parasitic elite, which will be exposed once whatever information is there comes out, which, by the way, it will not. There will be no information coming out. Okay, it's just not going to happen. Never. You will never ever get all of the information. Some people might be chosen as sacrificial lambs. Donald Trump might be chosen as a sacrificial lamb. He is not big enough. Believe it or not, he's not big enough not to be sacrificed. That's amazing if you think about it for a second, right? He's not big enough not to be sacrificed. Same with other presidents or other business leaders. And I find it funny, a lot of people are protesting much too much. Like Donald Trump, he's way too interested not to talk about it anymore. This guy from the Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, I forget his name.
Yes, I saw
he's
that.
Also, he's also, yeah, he's trying to steer away completely. But my point here is this. So there's all these distractions, right? And yes, we have to get to the bottom, and justice has to be served. Absolutely. But you have to look at all the other things that are going on in the world. This is important. We've got a declining population globally, mostly within the Western-type nations, but globally speaking, our population is actually in decline. And this is a direct effect of SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19. There were 5 or 6 independent studies that Dave and I mentioned that spoke about the effect of SARS-CoV-2 on male, especially male fertility, right? So it's a thing, right? So our population is, look, I'm not going to talk about the vaccines. They might do something, it might not do something. It was certainly the largest, maybe only second to polio. But it was this was probably the largest. This was the largest in the time frame it happened. The largest vaccination effort the world had ever seen in the time frame. I think polio was bigger, and I think measles or the mRNA vaccine is bigger as well as far as the reach is concerned. But for the time frame, I think that the COVID-19 vaccines were the biggest for the time frame in which they were administered. It's like an incredible effort to get that done, right? And again, there are many theories around what that meant. So are we looking at a managed decline, like Dave and I keep saying? The answer that Dave and I have is yes, of course we are. But there's also other things that are completely not talked about anymore. The UFO enigma. We know that these sightings are real. They're not swamp gas. They're not Venus. But it's not in the news. And I said it again. Last Sunday. On Skinwalker Ranch, they found the jawbone of what, for all intents and purposes, seems to be a young direwolf. Well, they found the entire carcass, but they only took the jawbone away, right? They had it tested, genetically tested, and so forth. And if you look at the fossil of a direwolf, young direwolf, this is the same. The jawbone they found is exactly the same, and the way it's structured and the way the muscles attach, it's got a strong bite force, etc., etc. And the other things they're finding with very sophisticated instrumentation, nobody in the mainstream media is covering it. I mean, literally nobody. It's just dismissed as some kind of hokey show People make up this stuff. I don't think so. I think this is the real deal, right? Not only that, though, but there are other things that are now coming out. Because we have got cameras everywhere, Dave. We've got cameras everywhere. So we capture a lot of stuff that previously would not have been captured. And a lot of it is really strange. We're capturing a lot of odd things, right? 411 is not going to go away either, right? Why are people disappearing in the national parks, and not just in America? And sometimes they reappear, or some of their stuff reappears in areas that had been searched 5, 6, 7 times previously. These are very strange things that are happening, and we are completely distracted by all of the nonsense that's going on, right? Because our attention span is so short. There are fundamental life-altering questions out there that we are simply not seeing. They're not being addressed. They're not being put to the people. This is real stuff. It's happening. What are UFOs? What are UAPs? Are they dimensional travelers? Are they time travelers? Are they extraterrestrials? I don't know. Are they inner earthers? I have no idea. But I think we should find out. Because that tech, what that tech hints at, is a post-scarcity society. Forget all the alien stuff. Forget it. Out the window. Don't worry about it. But the technology that is hinted at by these UAPs, UFOs, whatever, right, and other things, hints at a capability which would put us well beyond a scarcity society. Free energy. Think about that for a second. Free energy. Gravitational control. Okay? All of a sudden, all the wildest dreams that we have as a race, going to space, having, a lifestyle that will allow you to study or pursue whatever your dreams are without having to eke out a crust for the parasitic elite, right? You no longer have to work. But that's of course where it all falls down. If we were to enter this era of free energy and non-scarcity in every sector, including food and water, the powers that be would be crushed. Their power dominions would crumble. They would be no more. And it is the few, and I mean it's a handful of people, literally, that are keeping the human race in bondage, in ignorance, in poverty, starvation, in disease. They're keeping... Imagine this for just a second. No diseases. We're free of diseases. Our lifespans are dramatically increased, right? Which is now a possibility because we're living in a post-scarcity society. So there's no more shortage of resources, right? And we probably could colonize other planets, and so on and so forth. But imagine living a life free of disease. The suffering that we are undergoing today and every day and have been for thousands of years, wiped away. You think I'm dreaming, right? Not at all. These panaceas exist. There's no need for anyone to die of any disease, cancer, whatever, any genetic. Even now, we are building technology, right, with CRISPR to overcome our, genetic burdens, our diseases. But I'm telling you right now, we're tens of thousands of years behind what's possible on this planet. There are creatures on this earth that are disease-free, completely, right? And no, they're not the rich people that you see on TV. You have never seen these people. The true puppet masters, the shadow controllers, of whatever you call them, I don't care. You have never seen and you will never see. But they live a life free of disease. Imagine, Dave, imagine a world where disease was no longer a thing. Infant mortality, cancer, Alzheimer's, AIDS, any disease you can think of, gone. That's what we are not allowed to have. They keep it. And they keep us living and dying in the dirt. Okay? And that's the truth. And the things that are going on, Epstein, like I said before, is the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't get any better, right? It's like the cherry on top, right? The depravities that the parasites indulge in, and others, not just the parasites, but I mean it's human nature, I guess, is unspeakable. It's unspeakable, and I won't speak it because, well, number one, you won't believe me. Number two, it is too horrific, and you can never unsee it in your mind's eye, so I won't subject you to it. And most importantly, it is. I think it's completely unrectifiable. Right? There's a movie called The Sound of Freedom. It's called, and Henry Caviezel plays this is a true story, FBI agent, I think, who engaged in freeing children specifically from human trafficking. And if you haven't seen it, go and see the movie. It's very good. Now, this is a real story about a real person, right? It's not even the tip of the iceberg. You don't even see the iceberg. Okay, it is such a tiny fraction of what's actually going on. It is. Do you ever wonder why there's so many wars and why wars never stop? The easiest way to disappear people is during wartime. Right? A lot of people get killed anyway. Children can be abducted. No one would be any wiser. Apparently, Mel Gibson is working on a documentary, and apparently he's going to name names. We'll see. We'll see how that goes, and if he actually will make the documentary.
Will he make it to making the documentary?
That's the question, my friend. That's the question. And the funny thing is this: now we're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell being pardoned or having her sentence commuted or something or other, and she answered all the questions that the Trump administration had for her, which was completely unprecedented event, by the way. The deputy, I think it's the deputy attorney general or whatever, like whoever the person was that went to, used to be actually Trump's personal lawyer, but that person is now, I think, deputy attorney general. It doesn't matter, whatever they are. It is unheard of that person would actually go and have a deposition with a felon, which is what Ghislaine Maxwell is. It's never happened ever before. Someone that senior has never ever gone to a prisoner to have a conversation. Not ever. Right? So it sort of spirals. So some of the distractions are actually part of the core problem, but we look at it wrong. We look at it the wrong way, right? And people think, all these people in power, they're concerned with our well-being. They would never do anything that would harm us. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. In the olden times, kings and queens, emperors, empresses, it was a ruthless business. This Game of Thrones, and I'm borrowing from George R.R. Martin here. It was a ruthless game. The most ruthless won. If you wanted to be king and your brother was king and you're second in line, guess what? You have to kill your brother, or your sister, or your cousin, or your father, or your mother. But you did, and they did. They killed, they poisoned, they stabbed, they burned, they threw out of windows, just in order to get power for themselves. And these royal houses that we so venerate today were founded by the most ruthless, brutal, mass murderous psychopaths history has ever seen. So I owe no fealty to any of these. I think all royalty should be abolished. And what the Russians did back in 1915, I think it was, or 16, more of that, thank you very much. The French had the right idea too. These are the most ruthless killers, right? Let's be very clear. And they will kill thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of their citizens. And it doesn't take a king. Stalin did it. Hitler did it. Mao did it. Okay, Pol Pot did it. Yeah? Any tin pot dictator, as Dave mentioned earlier as well, takes great pleasure in killing of their own people. So, but I'm worried that all of this is distracting us from the real mysteries, Dave, because we should be living in a post-scarcity society. I really believe we should. Know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So they call it a conspiracy, Mickey, that free energy is being suppressed. It's a conspiracy. I watched an American leftist news guy with glasses. I forget who he is again, but he's kind of been in the news recently, and he was saying that the death of Epstein is a conspiracy. And I went, ooh, I'm interested now. And he said it's a conspiracy. And then he went on to only suggest that the idea that he was killed is a conspiracy. Now, that as a phrase on its own is true. If it were true, then it would be a conspiracy because there'd be people concealing that information. He was suggesting the opposite, which was you're a crazy person if you believe anything other than the narrative. Because he's reading from a prompter, and I can only imagine a CIA agent is the one typing the prompter text. We can't have him say anything. So there's Jon Stewart, I think, has broken the mold a few times and said what he really wants to say, but he does it in joke form and tries to get that message out to his audience. But it's not big enough. The audience is not big enough. When we talk about, you and I, Mackie, when we talk about the suppression of free energy, this post-scarcity society that we should be living in, but apparently, that's even withheld from us. Anti-gravity withheld from us. That free energy on its own is one thing. Anti-gravity is another thing. It's only one thing. The transition from a strict capitalistic society, despite all of its failings, because it only really supports the money, not even a good idea that won't generate any money, that's abandoned and forgotten. Our society is hell-bent on making more money for itself or for individuals, for those people who are backing it. Like that Mr. Wonderful guy, he never threw money at something that was a terrible moneymaker. Great idea, terrible moneymaker. Oh, I don't want part of it. And that whole Shark Tank show is just capitalism at its worst.
It is.
Absolutely. So if, say, Tesla was born today and was coming up with ideas, it wouldn't, in today's era, none of it would get up. There isn't any reason to make anything new. We could hold this whole society at this level for the end of time. In fact, the plan from the Great Reset is to restrict our access to everything. Make us not even an automaton in skill set. We've been reducing... I'm ranting, Mickey, listen to me. We've been reducing the quality of candidates coming out of school. Not for work.
Yes.
But as social improvement candidates, as civilization improvement candidates. We've been limiting those and forcing them into programs that are teaching them stuff that's 50 years old. This self-perpetuation of something that, it's been working for a while, we shouldn't really change it. We know, because of our research, that we've found that most of the new inventions have come from people working in a project that side invented something else without a glass ceiling of knowledge or a closed textbook from those superiors. These have all been young, fresh minds, and that's where the most growth happens. Outside of war. War is fantastic for the economy, Mackie. It fixes your debt. Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Because then you
solves unemployment.
Solves unemployment. It has construction. It uses a lot of materials, so that means the whole economy is bubbling away, doing all the things it has to do to be successful. Where are all the unemployed people? They're on the front lines.
Yeah.
All of the people,
exactly.
Mackie, and all the people that you want to make citizens, as we talk about through the Troopers movie, right? So you have to put them through a regime of going to war, and those that survive become a citizen. But as we know, it's changed since World War II. You know, there were no VA heroes in 1973, Mackie. So those Iraq people came back with PTSD, which was endlessly untreatable unless you're using psychedelics. So I'm not sure. I really don't know how we can break that mold that they're placing around us. They're building a bunker to try to keep us at this level. I mean, I like my flat screens. I'm not going to lie. I like the internet the way it is, well, the way it was. I like streaming services, but please, can all the streaming services be one platform with everything on it?
Look, you're living in the perfect panopticon. We all are, right? And,
yeah.
And certain to be taken that. But you actually said something very important. You said if Tesla came about today, the same thing would happen to him again that happened back then. Maybe worse, because all the free energy inventors and energy efficiency experts and such, all the people that would have moved the needle, are either dead or have disappeared along with their research. And that's a fact. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact, a provable fact, and everybody's more than welcome to look it up themselves. But we are in a panopticon. But think about this way for a second. And I've asked this question many years before. I think we had the conversation. What would happen if the biblical Jesus came along today? Today, like Jesus comes, second coming of Christ. Here he is. Jesus comes along and enters. I don't know, New York City. Let's say he's in New York City. It's the biggest city, right, etc. And or even Jerusalem, whatever. It doesn't matter where he appears. Do you know what would happen if Jesus actually came down? And
he'd be killed.
They would slap him. Well, I think they would slap him into an insane asylum first. Right?
Oh yeah,
They'd take him with a butterfly net and say, "Oh no, you're clearly you're nuts. We're gonna lock you up."
Well, and, I'd like to translate for him and just say, he loves San Dimas.
San Dimas, that's nice. Great reference. But the truth is that a lot of people profess to be Christians or Muslims or Jews or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Or even Buddhists and Hindus. But when it comes down to the crux of actually practicing their faith, meaning to put into practice what it is they say they believe, what it is,
and how they should behave,
ethics, exactly, and morality, it all falls apart. There are very few people, right? And this is across all religions and philosophies, all of them. Very few people who actually practice what they preach, or practice what is being preached to them. I guarantee you. And look, I'm not a Bible basher, and I'm not very religious myself. I've got faith, and I've got a spiritual side, but I don't really have a great religious leaning. But think about Jesus when he actually was around, according to the stories we're told. He didn't hang out with the rabbis. He didn't hang out with the rich people. He hung out with the prostitutes and the money changers. He hung out with what would have been considered the dregs of society, because those are the ones that needed him the most, in his opinion. He preached poverty. He preached love and forgiveness. Very different to the Old Testament God, by the way. And then we actually did a show on Jesus in the missing years, if you're interested. Look it up in the archives. But he would do the same thing today. He would maybe hang out with drug addicts, people, drug dealers, or
people living rough.
Yeah, he'd be out with the homeless people.
Yeah, under a freeway overpass. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not you and I that can sit in our comfortable homes listening, to internet radio, he would go to the ones that actually need his help. And we forget this. We have all these lofty ideas and lofty ideals of how life should be and how we should live. But that's all they are, ultimately. They're just ideas and ideals. I challenge everybody to do something good tomorrow or today, if it's the beginning of your day or whatever. And then try to do something good every day without reward, right? If you want to call it paying forward, whatever, I don't care. But do something that you normally would not do. Help someone. Do something good.
And tell no one.
Everyone. Tell no one. Tell no one, and just be that person. Just be that person for a moment, right? Just make someone's day. That's what I'm asking here, right? Because if we can't do that, then we might as well give in to the managed decline.
Exactly right.
There's no point, and this will just be another extinction level event, right? For the human race, I'm talking about. There were many civilizations that have reached, or that had reached the heights, the lofty heights, and even higher than what we have today. Different technologies. Okay, I don't think fossil fuel was involved. It's just different. It could be piezoelectric. It could have been other energies. I don't know. But the point is, just because we are doing something a certain way doesn't mean other civilizations would have done it the same way. Okay, we are sort of stuck in our mindsets, which I find horrific. And they all went. They left incredible structures, Dave.
Yeah.
Even the moon might be a structure. The scar on Mars, they say, to me, it looks like something took a chunk out of Mars, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it was a war, in a solar system-wide war. I don't know, but my point is, we're not even a Type 1 civilization yet. Okay? We can't even harness the energy that is present on in our solar system. We can't, or let alone our planet. There's so much energy that's wasted. I mean, if we could build a Dyson sphere and harness all of the sun's energy, then we would be moving up into galactic civilizations and such. But right now, we're not even peasants. And still, we are so fixated on hurting each other. We're so fixated, and Dave, it really upsets me when I think about children being abused or mistreated. I'm not just talking about the weird and creepy stuff. I'm about physical violence.
Yeah.
It's
let's say everything outside of being nurtured.
Yeah, that's all.
Because that's abandoned, left alone, dismissed. All of the negative aspects of growing up and losing potential.
Yeah, 100%. Every child should have the opportunity to fully develop and have a chance at a life of happiness and safety. Every child, that should be an inalienable right. In the new human rights. Maybe I'll write a manifesto on that. But this should be number one. Every child has the right to a life free of pain and fear. Okay, and we could have it. This is what really upsets me, Dave. We could actually have that. We could be living in a post-scarcity society. No economic. Imagine that. No economic conflict, Dave.
Oh wow.
No economic conflict. Just none. Zero.
That's crazy talk.
And no diseases, including mental diseases. None. No, none. Just imagine that, just for a second. Imagine that everybody can live up to their full potential, and of course, everybody's potential is different. Of course, it is. Of course, it is. And everybody's different, but we all would have the chance to fully develop our potential. Even if your genetics weren't up to scratch, imagine a world where that didn't matter, where this could be fixed.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it can be fixed.
Mental diseases, even psychotic or psychopathic or sociopathic killing machines, right? If it's these are just these are just expressions of physical conditions. Do you know what I mean? Chemistry or such, or maybe some brain function that isn't quite right. But it could all be fixed. That's the thing. It can all be fixed. Today, 10,000 years ago, it could have been. We were frozen at 100 years. Okay? We were frozen at 100 years. Many things were taken away from us, our birthrights. Sounds crazy, right? I know how it sounds. I do. I read the ancient texts, though, right? And I look at us, and we've spent a lot of time looking at death and why we age. We spend a lot of time. And there isn't a good reason. There isn't a good reason. I mean, if a brick falls on your head, well, you'll die. I mean, that's what can happen. And if you abuse your body and take every drug and drink five bottles of whiskey every day, then so be it. But other than that, we should live forever. And Dave is, of course, right. Thank you so much for listening to Platos Cave. We'll be back on Thursday. Don't go anywhere. Something awesome is going to come up. If you see this somewhere, maybe a short, like, subscribe if you can. That'd be awesome. Donate money to the station if you can. It'd be awesome as well. But most of all, Dave,
be safe.